blood doesn't hide the truth. And the red stains smeared on Thaddeus Whitmore's fence post-told a story he wasn't ready to hear. For 12 years, his ranch was super quiet, just the wind whistling and cows mooing. But then, there she was, slumped against the old wooden fence, her dress ripped, breathing faint. Alive, but just barely. Thorne had made this lonely life on purpose. After a fire took his family and people blamed him, the whispers followed him like smoke. So he picked this empty place. No neighbors for miles, no visitors, no drama, just him, his cows, and the kind of calm you get when the world forgets you. He stood 30 feet away, holding his rifle loosely, staring at this woman who broke his peaceful bubble. She looked young, maybe 30, with dark hair all messy with dirt and something darker. Her hands pressed her side where her dress was torn, and blood had leaked through. She hadn't noticed him yet, her eyes shut, her face pale like frosty grass. Every part of him yelled to turn around, go back to his house, act like he never saw her. Helping strangers always brought trouble, and trouble was the one thing Thorne swore to keep out of his life. But then she moved against the fence, letting out a tiny sound pang mixed with being super tired. That sound hit him hard, breaking through the walls he'd built for 12 years. He took a step closer, then another. She opened her eyes when his shadow fell over her green eyes, sharp even with the pain, locking onto him with a mix of fear and desperate hope that made his chest feel tight. She tried to talk, but only whispered something he couldn't hear. Thorne knelt down, keeping his rifle across his knees, staying a bit away even as he got closer. Up close, he saw her injuries, cuts on her arms, bruises on her jaw, and that bloody wound on her side. Someone had hurt her bad. She spoke then, her voice rough and weak. "Please, they're coming." Those words changed everything. If someone was chasing her, his 12 years of quiet were about to end, whether he helped her or not. Thorne faced the choice he'd avoided forever, getting mixed up in someone else's fight. But looking into those scared green eyes, he felt the choice was already made. His first thought was to leave her there. His second was to help. His third one was to get answers before anything got him killed. "Who's coming?" he asked, glancing at the horizon where dust could hide riders. She tried to sit up, wincing as it hurt her wounds. "Men from Dead Rock Canyon. 3, maybe 4. Her voice sounded like she'd been running forever. "They've been after me since yesterday." Dead Rock Canyon, Thorne knew it. A town 40 miles south, famous for silver mines and rough guys who didn't ask questions. If she ran from there, she either stole something big or saw something she wasn't supposed to. "What did you do?" His question came out sharp. 12 years alone had made him forget how to talk nicely. Her eyes flashed with anger and hurt. "What makes you think I did anything wrong?" "Because innocent people don't end up bleeding on my fence with killers chasing them." She looked away, her jaw tight. He thought she wouldn't answer, but then she spoke so softly he had to lean in. "I saw them kill a family, the Hendersons. They had a claim near the canyon, found something worth killing for." Her hand shook as she pressed her side. "I was there to buy supplies. Wrong place, wrong time." Thorne studied her face, looking for signs she was lying. He'd gotten good at spotting liars in his old job, but her eyes stayed steady, and her shaky voice sounded like real pain, not a trick. "So you ran," he said. "What else could I do? Stay and let them kill the only witness?" She looked at him again. "They killed a whole family over what the Hendersons found. You think they'd think twice about killing one more person?" A sound came across the plains, far off but clear. Hoofbeats, lots of horses riding fast. Thorne stood, rifle ready, eyes scanning. There a dust cloud, maybe 2 miles away, moving quick toward his land. 4 riders, just like she said. The woman, whose name he still didn't know, struggled to stand, using the fence to hold herself up. "Please," she whispered, "I won't cause you trouble. Just point me to water, and I'll keep running." But Thorne was already thinking. 4 armed men, probably desperate to hide their crime. If they'd kill a family, they wouldn't leave witnesses. Now that they'd followed her to his land, he was in this, like it or not. The hoofbeats got louder. In less than 10 minutes, those riders would reach his ranch, see her, see him, And Thorne would have to decide if 12 years of peace was worth dying for. He made his choice in a heartbeat, not because he was brave, and definitely not because he was dumb. He made it because he saw something in her eyes, the same scared, trapped look he'd seen in his own mirror 12 years ago. "Can you walk?" he asked, already moving. She nodded, though the way she clung to the fence showed walking was more hope. Then truth. "My name's Serafina Caldwell," she said as he put an arm around her, helping her stand. "Sarah, I'm Thorne Whitmore, and we're about to hide in my root cellar." The cellar was his backup plan, a secret spot under the kitchen floor where he kept emergency stuff, food, water, and a place to hide if his past ever caught up. He never thought he'd hide someone else. As they hurried to the house, Sarah stumbled, her legs giving out. Without thinking, Thorne picked her up, carrying her the rest of the way. She was lighter than he expected, fragile in a way that stirred feelings he'd buried long ago. The hoofbeats were super close now. He could hear each horse. Inside, Thorne set Sarah down and opened the hidden trapdoor. The cellar was small but packed with supplies, water, dried food, bandages. He'd learned to be ready the hard way. "There's bandages down there," he said, helping her down the ladder. "Fix your wounds. Stay quiet, no matter what you hear." Sarah grabbed his wrist before he shut the door. "Why help me? You don't know me. Don't know if I'm telling the truth." Thorne looked at her confused face. How long had it been since someone was kind to her without wanting something? "Maybe I know what it's like to run from something you can't fight," he said softly. "Maybe I know what it's like to have nowhere to go." Before she could answer, he closed the trapdoor and covered it with a rug. The horses were a minute away. He could hear them clearly. 4 riders, their horses tired from a long chase. Thorne checked his rifle and went to the window. The riders reached the hill, kicking up dust, spreading out as they neared his land. Hard-looking men with tough faces, the kind who wore their meanness proudly. The leader, a tall guy with a scar from his ear to his jaw, raised his hand, stopping the group 50 yards from the house. Even from there, Thorne could see the cold, calculating look in the man's eyes. "You Whitmore?" The scarred man shouted. Thorne stepped onto his porch, rifle relaxed but ready. "Depends who's asking." "Name's Kane Murdoch." "Where?" "Tracking a woman, a dangerous criminal." "Seen anyone pass through?" And there it was, the lie that forced Thorne to pick between safety and doing right. He could see in Murdoch's eyes that this man had killed before, and wouldn't hesitate. Again, Thorne had lied plenty in his past, during the war, after it, when truth was too risky. But standing there, facing Murdoch, he knew this lie would cost him everything he built. "Haven't seen a soul in weeks," Thorne said, his voice calm despite the rifle's weight. "Gets lonely out here, but that's how I like it." Murdoch's eyes narrowed, scanning the ranch like a hunter. His gaze stopped on the fence posts where Sarah's blood had dried dark. "Funny thing," Murdoch said, getting off his horse smoothly. "We followed her trail right to your property. Blood trail, too. She was hurt bad." The other 3 riders spread out, not threatening yet, but ready for a fight. Thorne knew that setup. He'd used it himself in his old life. "Blood could be from anything," Thorne said. "Coyotes hunt around here. Maybe your woman ran into something with teeth." Murdoch smiled, but it was a mean smile, like trouble was coming. "Mind if we take a look around? Just to ease our minds." It wasn't a real question. Thorne could see it in how Murdoch's hand stayed near his gun, how the others watched his every move. They'd search whether he said yes or not. The only question was if they'd kill him before or after. "Free country," Thorne said, stepping aside. "But don't spook my cows, they scare easy." As Murdoch got closer to the porch, Thorne noticed something chilling. Mud on Murdoch's boots, but not just any mud-red clay, the kind only found at the Henderson place near Dead Rock Canyon. Sarah was telling the truth. Murdoch was close enough now that Thorne could smell old whiskey on his breath and see dried blood under his nails. This wasn't just a killer. This was a man who liked killing. "Nice place you got here, Whitmore," Murdoch said, eyeing the house. "Quiet, private, the kind of place a man could hide things or people." "I'm just a rancher," Thorne replied. "Don't need to hide anything." Simple rancher, Murdoch laughed. That's what they all say. But I think you've got secrets, Whitmore. I can smell them. One of the other riders shouted from near the barn. Kane, found fresh horse tracks. Someone was here recently. Thorne's mind raced. Those were his tracks from checking the fence that morning, but Murdoch wouldn't know that, and he was ready to assume the worst. Murdoch's hand crept closer to his gun. Thought you said you hadn't seen anyone. I said I hadn't seen a soul. Didn't say I hadn't left my own land, Thorne said, staying calm. Rode out to check my fence this morning. Found some posts broken. Probably the same animal that left that blood. For a long moment, the two men stared at each other. Thorne felt the weight of the moment, the balance between truth and lies. Safety and danger. Then Murdoch smiled again, and Thorne knew his. 12 years of peace were about to end in a fight. The tension snapped when Murdoch stepped onto the porch without being invited. That one move crossed a line. Thorne had said 12 years ago, nobody entered his home unasked. Let's have a look inside, Murdoch said, his hand now openly on his gun. Thorne raised his rifle a tiny bit, not a full threat, but enough to show he meant business. I'd rather you didn't. Wasn't asking. Murdoch's three men moved closer, their moves showing they were ready for a fight. It was about to get messy, and they all knew it. But then a new sound broke through hoofbeats. Fast, from the east. A single rider, pushing his horse hard across the open ground. Murdoch cursed. His focus split between Thorne and the new guy. In that moment, Thorne saw something that made his heart sink. One of Murdoch's men was studying the ground near the porch, following a trail of Sarah's blood droplets leading to the house. The new rider reached the ridge, and Thorne saw him clearly. A young guy, maybe 25, looking desperate, like he carried bad news. He stopped hard in front of them, his horse sweaty and panting. Kane, he called. Trouble in Dead Rock. Sheriff's asking questions about the Henderson place. Someone tipped him off. Murdoch's face turned dark with anger. What kind of questions? The kind that end with a noose if we don't fix this fast. The young guy glanced at Thorne, then back to Murdoch. We need to ride now. For a second, Thorne thought this might save them. Murdoch would leave to deal with the sheriff. But then Murdoch saw the blood drops leading to the house, and his face turned dangerous. Curtis, Murdoch said to the man tracking the blood. What did you find? Curtis pointed to the house. Blood trail goes right to the front door. She's here. The words hit Thorne like a punch. His lie was caught, and now 4 armed killers stood between him and the woman he'd promised to protect. Worse, they were desperate, facing a hanging if they didn't silence every witness. If you were Thorne, what would you do? Fight 4 armed guys to save a woman you just met, or try to talk your way out and hope they let you both live? Tell me in the comments. I need to know what you'd choose, because Thorne's next move would decide if either of them saw sunset. Murdoch pulled his gun fast. Bring her out, Whitmore. Do it now, and maybe we'll make this quick. But Thorne was already moving, his 12 years of hiding gone in a flash, revealing the man he used to be, one who knew sometimes you have to fight. Thorne's rifle boomed like thunder, and Curtis dropped before he could draw. The shot echoed across the plains, and suddenly the quiet ranch was a war zone. Murdoch dove behind his horse as Thorne's next shot broke the porch post, where his head had been. The other 2 men ran for cover behind the water trough and barn wall. Thorne's old war skills kicked in. His hands worked the rifle fast, like he'd hoped he'd never have to again. You picked the wrong side, Whitmore, Murdoch yelled from behind his horse. All this for some woman you don't even know? Thorne didn't waste words. He shot at the water trough, making the guy there scramble. The young messenger turned his horse and rode off fast, deciding Dead Rock's problems were better than Thorne's rifle. Smart kid. Murdoch popped out, shooting his pistol. Bullets tearing splinters from the porch railing. Thorne dropped flat, rolling behind a heavy bench he'd built for quiet nights he'd never have again. The silence after the gunfire was scarier than the shots. Thorne counted bullets, thought about angles, remembered how to stay alive when outnumbered. 2 men left besides Murdoch, both with clear shots at the house if he showed himself. Then he heard a sound that froze his blood. The trapdoor creaking open. "Don't!" he shouted, but it was too late. Sarah's voice came from the cellar, weak but stubborn. "Let me help. I can shoot." "Stay down," Thorne hissed, but she was already climbing up. Holding his spare pistol from the cellar supplies, Murdoch heard them and laughed. A mean, sharp sound. "That's right, girl. Come out. Let's finish what we started at the Henderson place." Sarah appeared beside Thorne, pale but steady, blood soaking through her bandages. Her eyes burned with something stronger than pain. "They killed a little girl," she whispered to Thorne. "Sarah Henderson. She was only 8. Murdered because she saw them kill her parents." Those words hit Thorne like a punch. This wasn't just about saving a stranger anymore. It was about justice for innocent people these men had killed. "How many bullets you got?" Thorne asked. 5 in the gun, plus what's in your belt." Thorne checked his rifle. 3 bullets left. Against Murdoch and 2 tough killers. It wasn't enough, but then he remembered something. The old dynamite in the barn. Kept for clearing stumps. Dangerous, but powerful. "Can you keep them busy for 2 minutes?" he asked. Sarah nodded, sweat on her face from pain. "What's your plan?" "Something dumb." Thorne checked the distance to the barn, 30 yards of open ground where any of those men could shoot him, but maybe dumb enough to work. He looked at this woman he'd known for barely an hour, who'd brought trouble back to his quiet life. She could have stayed hidden, let him face this alone, but she chose to stand with him. "Ready?" he asked. Sarah got ready at the porch corner, pistol steady, for Sarah Henderson. Thorne ran for the barn as Sarah fired, her shots keeping Murdoch and his men down. But 30 yards felt like forever, and Thorne knew one of those killers could shoot him any second. His boots hit the barn floor as a bullet whizzed past his ear, close enough to feel hot dot behind him. Sarah's pistol kept firing, keeping the men honest. He dove for the corner where he kept the mining supplies, searching for the small box with a skull and crossbones. There 2 sticks of dynamite, fuses good, enough to blow up half the barn or turn this fight around. His fingers found the matches as another bullet punched through the barn wall, spraying him with splinters. Outside, Sarah's shooting stopped. Either she was reloading or hurt. Thorne didn't have time to check. He lit the first fuse, the spark hissing, maybe 20 or 30 seconds before it blew. He ran back to the barn door, dynamite in one hand, rifle in the other. Sarah was alive, crouched behind the porch railing, blood on her arm from a new graze. She saw him come out and nodded. She knew what he was planning. Murdoch's voice rang out. "Give it up, Whitmore. You're outgunned and outnumbered. Send the girl out, and maybe I'll let you live." Instead of answering, Thorne threw the dynamite toward the water trough where 2 men hid. The stick spun through the air, fuse sparking like a falling star. The explosion shook the morning, sending dirt and debris flying. When the dust settled, 1 man was down, the other crawling, hurt and dazed. But Murdoch had used the chaos to get closer, and now he was at the porch steps, gun pointed at Sarah's head. "Drop it, Whitmore," he growled, face full of rage. "Drop it, or I paint your porch with her brains." Thorne froze, rifle half raised. 30 feet separated him from Murdoch, but it felt like miles. Murdoch couldn't miss at this range. Sarah looked at Thorne, and he saw something in her eyes that hurt his heart. Not fear, but acceptance. She'd made peace with dying back in Dead Rock Canyon when she chose to be the witness these men couldn't silence. "Don't," she said softly. "Don't let him win." But Murdoch was already pulling the trigger when the second dynamite stick, the one Thorne had lit and hidden behind his back, rolled to a stop at Murdoch's feet. Murdoch's eyes widened as he realized his mistake. He had maybe 3 seconds to choose between shooting Sarah or diving for cover. He chose wrong. The blast threw Murdoch backward, his gun flying into the dust. When the ringing in Thorne's ears faded, the ranch was quiet again. Just the wind and the far-off mooing of scared cows. Sarah was alive, shaken but breathing. Murdoch lay still near the broken porch steps. The last gunman had vanished, probably deciding the sheriff in Dead Rock was safer than more dynamite. Thorne walked to Sarah, rifle still ready, but not needed. She looked up with those green eyes that had changed everything. Is it over? Thorn looked at his wrecked ranch, the broken porch, the crater where his water trough was, the blood soaking into the ground that had been peaceful for 12 years. Yeah, he said, helping her stand. It's over. 3 days later, Sheriff Morrison rode up from Dead Rock Canyon with a posse and questions. He found Thorn fixing his porch while Sarah sat nearby, her wounds healing, her presence now a permanent part of his life in ways neither expected. Morrison was a good guy, honest in a place where that could get you killed. He listened to their story, checked the bodies, and nodded when Thorn handed over dynamite Murdoch had carried proof of the silver claim that got the Hendersons killed. Henderson found a silver vein worth killing for. Morrison explained, holding the ore sample. Murdoch and his crew thought they could kill the family and take it. They almost did. The sheriff looked at Sarah, noting her healing cuts and determined face. You willing to testify in court about what you saw? Every word, Sarah said firmly. Sarah Henderson deserves that much. Morrison nodded and turned to Thorn. You've got quite a reputation from your war days. Some might wonder why a guy with your skills hid out here so long. Thorn paused, smoothing the wood he was working on. Sometimes a guy needs to find his own peace before he can make it for others. Well, you made plenty of peace here. Murdoch's gang was scaring half the territory, word spreading about what happened. You might get folks stopping by to thank you. The idea of visitors, of his quiet life being gone forever, should have scared Thorn. Instead, he glanced at Sarah, who was watching him with something like hope. After Morrison and his posse left, taking the bodies and evidence, Thorn and Sarah sat on the half-fixed porch as the sunset turned the sky fiery. You could go anywhere now, Thorn said quietly. Morrison offered to take you to Denver, help you start fresh where one knows your story. Sarah was quiet, watching the cows in the fading light. And you? What'll you do? Same as always, I guess. Work the ranch, tend the cows. He paused, then looked at her. But this place could use a woman's touch. Maybe some extra hands for the work. Are you offering me a job, Thorn Whitmore? I'm offering you a home if you want it. Sarah's smile was like sunrise after a long, dark night. I've been running so long, I forgot what home feels like. It feels like this, Thorn said, and for the first time in 12 years, he meant it. 6 months later, travelers passing through told stories of a peaceful ranch where a scarred man and a green-eyed woman built something beautiful from violences. Ashes. They raised cows and kids, welcomed strangers, and never talked about the day blood on fence posts changed everything. Thorn kept his rifle clean and ready, but never needed it again. Some battles once won, stay won. Some peace, once earned, lasts forever. The ranch that sheltered one broken soul became a home for 2 healing hearts, showing that sometimes the best things start with helping a stranger in need. If you're loving this story, subscribe to the Vine channel now. Click the video on the screen for a story even better, more intense, more moving, the kind that makes your heart race and your soul pause.